following show may shock, disturb, and offend some viewers. The opinions, theories, and facts shared on this podcast are not widely accepted by the brainwashed masses, especially those who find dark humor offensive. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jeffrey Dahmer soaked in blood. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for apes. JFK shot in the head by the CIA. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts in the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange.
Welcome, everybody, back to the show. Welcome. I'm one of your hosts, Tomcat, a.k.a. Tom Thompson, and we have someone special for you, a familiar voice, some could say. Do you want to introduce yourself, sir?
I am the one that some people, mainly just me, call Shane Squatch, a.k.a. Shane Jones from Inquiries of Our Reality / Bizarre Encounters. The one, the only guy who sits on a podcast and talks about absolutely nothing for hours. But hey, what's up?
I think we all kind of do that. Would you get mad if people called it Inquiries of Reality?
You're the only one that does that. Remember when we made the fucking song and what did you say? What did you call it? Inquiries of Reality? That's what it was.
Yeah, I was like, fuck. And then I said, I originally want to say Inquiries of Reality. I don't know why. That's so strange.
I think it's an accent thing, though, because when I have guests on from like the UK and shit like that, they all say inquiries. And then America, they say inquiries. So it's like, I think it's a dialect thing,
Weird,
it's like info or data versus data, it's like same word, just...
Because if I'm going to inquire about something, inquiring, I'm like fucking myself up.
See, and I view it as like inquiries, like I have questions, like I have an inquiry about this, like that's how I see it. Inquiries of our reality, questions of our reality, my friend.
It's clever, and we are questioning reality on this episode. We've talked about doing this for a while. Is essentially just talking about the simulation theory, right? Is diving into the idea of, is this reality actually a simulation? Because a lot of there's people that think it's flat. There's people that think that's hollow. I'm probably one of those people. I think it's at least kind of hollow. And then
it's definitely hollow. That fits for either theory. Flat Earth, cold Earth, hollow still works.
Is there anyone that thinks it's like square or some shit?
There's people that think it's shaped like a fucking dinosaur. I've seen that shit before.
Are there people that think it's like you're on like a turtle's back riding through the universe or whatever?
That was like the whole Native American concept, like Turtle Island and all that kind of shit. That's where that comes from.
Crazy. So the notion that we exist within a computer simulation was once mere science fiction, maybe just a spectacle of science fiction. However, the lines between fiction and reality may not be as definitive as we once believed. Thomas Campbell, a former NASA scientist, physicist and visionary, NASA is never a straight answer, is convinced that our reality is a virtual simulation and is determined to demonstrate this through experimental evidence. Former NASA physicist Thomas Campbell has initiated a pioneering experiment to essentially figure out if our universe is in fact a computer simulation, inspired by those theories made famous by the movie, such as The Matrix.
I mean, that's like the OG when it comes to this kind of shit. I mean, my view is a little bit differently. Like, I don't think it's as virtual as we may seem, but I guess we can kind of get into that as we get into the show. Like, I kind of adhere to the whole, like, organic simulation concept.
Yeah, it could be true. You see that when you're on mushrooms and stuff. There's definitely some layers of our reality that we're not seeing, I believe.
It's all coding, but at the same time, it's like organic coding, which is like, we develop technology in the aspect that we're looking at zeros and ones, but it seems like within this other program system, like the numbers are different. There's like the whole, you get into like numerology and you have like the 1 through 9 concept and shit. I think it's digital, but there's also this fixation to it where it ends up becoming like biological at the same time. And it's just that our technology isn't advanced enough yet. But I mean, fuck, dude, we keep working on virtual realities. It's only a matter of time before you get to a point where like the things inside that virtual reality start becoming physical and not just digital anymore. Because it's
well, that's what I've always said. That like, is it going to get to a point where the virtual reality is, it feels just as real as this reality, and at that point, you could throw on a suit, right? And it'll give you all the same sensations and feelings that like touching a rose would be, or getting stung by a bee, or something like that. You know?
Well, here's a crazy concept to think about. So in video games, bro, you're playing GTA, and how much would people love to be able to play a game like that, where like
beat
all
a
of the
hooker
people, like,
and beat a hooker in the virtual reality world? You can beat a hooker without actually beating a hooker.
but at the same time, though, if you keep developing those systems and you want all of these things to start thinking independently and not just run off
that's where it gets
programming,
scary.
then you end up creating this system where there's these things that are almost conscious. And when it gets to the point where it's like, are they conscious? Like, what if we're another layer back from that? That somebody created some type of system and they wanted like a simulation system, and they wanted there to be free thinking individuals within that system to see how things would actually function within that system. And I mean, it may be something important, like some type of experiment, or on the other side, it could be a fucking game. And I mean, kind of connecting.
That's what
into all the
God's
weird
doing,
shit.
man.
Yeah, that's
That's
what I'm
God.
saying. Like getting
God-
all the weird
God
shit we
made us.
talk about, like are all these fucking like cryptids, creatures, aliens, all the shit that people see, just, you know, people playing as the playable characters and we're all just the NPC characters in this system? Definitely possible.
So fucking weird.
And all the
shit on my
orbs that are
sweater.
linked with everything.
It's a simulation on my sweater.
It's spectator mode. That could be what it is, man.
That's
Like,
what's
it's
crazy,
to think
too.
about.
Is like they say like they want to use AI for Sims, and at some point like the Sims will get so far ahead in technology, like just that game, that the people inside of the Sims will be conscious, at least AI conscious, and they will start asking questions like with the people telling them what to do and why they're doing these weird acts. Like imagine if they did that, where it's some sort of AI consciousness, and then they're going throughout their day, and then the people playing the game start to manipulate it, and they're like, what is going on? And they start freaking out inside the Sims.
Dude, that's literally like some Black Mirror type shit. Like, how many different episodes are there where it's like, where's the level when it actually like becomes fucking conscious? And getting into another whole thing that's just like another Black Mirror type episode. Actually, I think it was a Black Mirror episode. It is, actually. If they were able to like copy somebody's consciousness, the whole concept of that, like, is it actually that consciousness, or is it just a copy of that consciousness that has the same previous memory? So it thinks it's that first one, but it's not actually that first one. It's actually a copy. And then
Yeah, I know.
knowing that that's a copy, when does it get to the point where that thing now has rights? Because now you've made like consciousness, like fucking,
Yeah.
like, where's that stop at? You know, like,
and that's where it's like, supposedly, I don't know if this is true, but supposedly the people that took the the medicine time, I'll just use that phrasing because I like it.
the stabby stabs.
Yeah. So there's a claim that because of the gene therapy, it changes your gene sequencing. So then people who got it are not human anymore, at least to the elites. So they're able to do whatever they want to you, and you don't have any human rights anymore.
Well, that's what you get when you get pegged by the government.
It's true, but I think at the point now, people that fell for it, I know friends that did, and
That sounded really fucked up how I said that. Like,
It's fine,
I'm not
it's
trying to
fine.
victim blame here. I apologize. to
No,
anybody
no,
that
it's
got
fine.
it
I've
and,
said
like,
more
was
worse
like,
stuff.
oh fuck, but
no, but it is like they're at now. If people don't question it and don't regret getting it or stuff like that, I think I wouldn't say they're not able to be saved or like awakened from that like mind virus. I'll use that term. But at this point, come on, people, like you have to start to question your reality and why the people that tried to force you to get essentially do this or else we'll hurt you. That's what they did, was like, either you do this or we'll hurt you.
it wasn't even directly hurt you. Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like all right, you don't have to do it, but you're not gonna be able to eat. You're not gonna be able to afford stuff. You're not gonna be able to support yourself. So you have full autonomy to be able to do whatever you want. But if you do, you won't be able to afford a house or food or this.
Yeah, we'll
or
cut
that.
you off from the system that we created. That's why I'm like, man, the people that are in power they're still in power. Like, especially here in Canada, Trudeau is still in power. He literally broke laws and did numerous scandals and been involved with money laundering, selling us out to India, Israel, China, all this stuff, right? and there's still no consequences. And that's why I preach to people all the time. It's like, until the government is held accountable for their actions, your vote will never matter. Never will matter.
Nope. Ain't that the truth? I mean, left wing, right wing, it's all part of the same bird. People forget that shit.
So crazy how people still fall for that stuff. Like now, because Trump's and everyone's like this guy Pierre up here. They're like, yeah, Pierre, man, get Pierre. Literally did nothing when there's horses trampling people during the convoy. He actually said that Trudeau should be getting those shots faster. They should be producing them fast. You should already have these. Why don't we have these yet? His government pushed that same thing. Didn't defy lockdowns or try to push against any of that or the narrative. So they're all the same. And so he got caught calling himself a goy. He recently was like, I'm just a simple goy from the prairies. And I thought it was fake because I was like, oh, it was really blurry. And then recently, someone was reposting a video on TikTok and he said that, oh yeah, this is our deputy leader, whatever her name is. And he helped me put on my kippa cap or whatever the hell they call it. This because this goy couldn't put it on. You know what a goy is, right? Goyim?
Well, no, not direct. I know the term and I know the reference, but I don't know what the exact meaning of it is.
Okay, that's good. That will be so people that don't know, Goyim is a term that's used for anybody that is not, I will say, the Babylonian Talmudist, the people with the little hats, that it's anyone that's not them. So they can call him a Gentile, which was kind of the same thing, but not really. He didn't call himself a Gentile. He called himself a Goy. Goyim, it means essentially chattel. Work slave animal. That's what it means. So, and there's rabbis. I've seen videos of rabbis. It's Jews in Israel. All these people in interviews. We played this on the Protocol Elders of Zion episode of them talking about how they see everyone else that is not part of their club with the tiny little hats. They see them as less than. They call them slave animals. Goyim, that's what it means. Chattel. So it's pretty crazy. So everybody that wants to support that country or support those type of people, especially the Zionists up top, not every Jewish person is involved with this conspiracy because it is a real conspiracy. If you start to trace everything back, all the dots connect. A lot of conspiracies connect back to them. Dude,
follow the money, and where does the money end up being?
Yeah. Who is 90% of Pfizer? Who was on there? Oh, everyone with the tiny little hats. Who's 80% of Congress? Oh, people with dual citizenship with Israel, right? So these people literally think of you less than an animal. They call you beasts. That's a fact. So it's just so funny. I'm like, he's on live television. He called himself a goy. I was like, what? What? You're calling yourself
I'm just a sheep. I'm just a simple sheep.
Yeah, that's literally what he's saying. He's showing his allegiance to his masters, right? I'm like, it's so fucking crazy that people that get caught up in this political, I call it political theater, because one side is arguing for this, one side's arguing for that, and they're like, it doesn't matter. They're acting. They're all acting. They all come out of politics a millionaire while we're all suffering and broke. So.
Dude, this totally took a totally different path than I was expecting it to. But I feel like you might be a good person to talk about this with, man. I've been kind of digging into this whole fucking concept on, will there ever be some type of sustainable government that will ever work for people? Because I don't believe that there ever will be, because every single governmental system starts off with good intentions. But the problem is, 2 generations in, people start changing the rules. They start twisting the first person's words, their concepts, all this kind of shit. So it's just a matter of time before the system becomes corrupt. And they call it a revolution because it's a fucking cycle. It'll just reoccur and keep happening. The new people that are going to take over the system, they're going to eventually become the corrupt ones, and they're going to eventually become the system that you're fighting. And we're just going to be stuck in this.
Yeah, who sponsored all the revolutions, though? It's very, if you pay attention, most revolutions, even the French one, was sponsored and funded by the people with the tiny little hats, and then they consolidate the power and the wealth to themselves. So I don't know. If you research Germany during the 1930s, they did some pretty crazy shit that changed their economy forever and brought everybody out of poverty. So there is a way to do it. You have to kick out the Rothschild banking system, though, as they did. Not saying afterwards what happened in World War II that the bad things didn't happen, because bad things did happen. It was warfare. The Americans were doing horrible things. The reason the Geneva Convention exists is because of Canadians, what Canadians were doing during warfare. Real Canadians, not the newcomers, real actual blood and bones Canadians, the people that inherit built this country. So It's pretty crazy. There's systems that can work, but you need to make sure that these people, at least at the base level, for having a government that's not corrupt, there has to be accountability. Has to be.
But I mean, at some point, it's just going to end up turning back over again, though. Because I mean, it's the whole counterculture concept. Because I mean, fuck, dude, when we were kids, the counterculture was what? Wearing skinny jeans and dressing like a scene kid. And now that's like the culture, and the counterculture is now fucking going out and living in the woods and being like a country boy, like,
or being a Christian, which is crazy. The counterculture now is being like a religious Christian. Like,
this is why all the fucking scene kids turned into like Republicans and fucking right-leaning people now, is because it's like they were the counterculture, and now they're still the counterculture. Like,
I know, and it's funny. Like, it's just like, because we live in this simulation. All these politics it's fake, right? It's just a show. That's all they're doing, right? That's why it kind of does relate to the simulation theory. But I think there is a way. I would like to see a world where these Illuminati bloodline families, because that's who I think is really in control and have been for at least like 500 plus years. I would like to see if they weren't in control, what would happen. But I do think that this reality is being manipulated by darker forces. You can call them the reptilians, you can call them dark entities, but I do think that there is like how I love how David Icke explains this, where he's like, it's like you're going to play with like uranium or some sort of toxic chemical or compound or something, and you're sticking your hands into the little container, right? And you got the gloves on that go through the container. You think of it like an evil science lab, you know, and then they're manipulating that thing with inside of that container. The people outside of the container are the ones really in control, and then we're the ones that are inside being manipulated by these rubber gloves, so to speak.
I mean, another way of thinking about that, though, too, I mean, what if it's all just a fucking experiment to actually see how things would happen on the outside world? Like, our world has no fucking effect on anything. It's literally just a system created so that they can try to do a certain simulation to see if it'll actually work. Like, you know, all those like those computer programs that they end up running where you set up like, you know, 1,000 of this person fights against 1,000 of this person, and then you just see the end result. Like, what if like our system is literally fucking that? And that's why like most of these NPC people just forget after the big event happens and the new thing restarts. And it's a matter of like, we're at the point now where the system is starting to become self-aware, and all the people that are like aware of all this shit now are the people that are in the system. Like, bro, what the fuck? Why is that giant finger poking us? Like,
yeah, I know.
Does anybody else see this shit? Like, what the fuck?
It is true, because a lot of people are waking up, and then there's for the people that are not, it's so bizarre to see them still try to like
head down, man. Like, they have to try now.
Yeah, I know. And like, they have your head buried in the sand. Like, they're really trying to suffocate themselves in that sand. And it's crazy to watch, considering I've been awake for so long. And then to watch people try to explain away all these things. And there's people like, stop.
Even that word got hijacked. Like, fucking woke was something totally different fucking 10 years ago.
And it's so funny too, right? Because like, you know, I would like, these people are trying to like kind of like dodge all of these questions. Like, there's people that still, you know, they're like, they say, don't talk about don't talk about COVID. Like, it's over, shut up about it. And I'm like, you don't remember what they did to us? You just want to forget. I'm not going to forget what they did. And now there's
those who forget history are bound to repeat it.
Yeah. And they've literally at this point, I think it's more now, but it was 17 million deaths according to Robert Malone and Peter McCullough and some of these other scientists and doctors that are actually trying to be on the side of humanity. So like, I'm not going to forget what they've done to people, and it's still happening, because now there's turbo cancer. There's people getting sick all the time. It's like infecting all sorts of different people where their health is rapidly declining. And they're like, why am I sick all the time? Why is this stuff happening? It's because you took an experiment. You took an experimental thing.
Dude, and it's not the first time, like, at least in the U.S., this has happened to citizens. I mean, there's time and time again that you've seen this stuff happen. But one of the prime ones I always throw is the whole lobotomy thing in New York. Do you remember hearing about that?
Oh, yeah.
Where people were coming to the park to get fucking lobotomies because the government said it was good for you.
Yeah.
And straight up fucking experiment to see how many goddamn people are going to come in there and let them put a little fucking pick in the corner of their eye and tap their fucking brain till they go, duh.
I think some people should get a lobotomy. Every single person on the left, I'll open a lobotomy clinic and you can come in for free. You know? I'm going to be doing it myself. I won't even wear gloves. We'll go old school like the Civil War, and then you'll get a bunch of infections in your eye.
You just got to tell them it's part of government funding for them to get their health care for.
I know. It's so crazy, man. Is it possible that our existence is confined to a simulated reality instead of a physical universe we perceive? The intriguing concept popularized by the 1990 hit film The Matrix is currently undergoing experimental investigation. And it is funny, I wanted to mention this earlier. The Russo brothers, they're called, the brothers that made The Matrix are now sisters. They literally fell for The Matrix.
Dude, and again, that's another system that goes into the cog of the Matrix. Because hear me out on this one, bro. If you create a virtual reality where people can be whatever the fuck they want, but in this physical reality, they have completely fucked themselves up where they can never feel like themselves again.
Yeah.
Like, people get these surgeries and stuff, and it's like you have to, put the fucking plug in every night. Otherwise, you're going to close up. You have to do all this kind of crazy
That
shit.
shit's gross. I didn't know about that. My boss told me that. I was like, that's fucked up.
That's what I'm saying. So if somebody came to you one day and said, you can live in this virtual reality, and within this, all women parts, no problem. How many people do you think are going to take that opportunity because now you fucking pig butchered them?
I know, it's true. And it's funny because this all leads to, I believe, transhumanism, which we'll cover at some point.
Or even to go back the other way. People that have gotten the surgery and regret it and can't go back now.
I know, there's tons
you
of...
You can go back to your original gender like nothing ever happened. Like, how many people are you going to trick into that shit?
I know, because the trans regression or whatever is crazy.
The death rate's up to... I saw it the other day. It was 50.8% of people that get the surgeries now end up committing suicide.
Oh, it's so fucked, man.
Oh, wait, I can't say that word on the show. Unalive.
Yeah, I know. Well, I might see an ex-co-host go through that. Fucking God knows what they're doing to themselves and stuff, right? So, and that's why it's funny where I wrote that song "Extremist," and the first line is like, "Where I'm the extreme one. Well, you call me the extreme one while you bleed from the place where your penis was. Now you'll be needing drugs to keep you from sealing shut." And it's just like, it's like I literally attacked the trans community pretty hard, but it was to shed light on the fact that, man, you people are mentally ill. You can't just pick what you want to be. I can't wake up tomorrow and fucking pretend to be a dolphin. It's not going to work. You're not that. You can't be that. No matter what you want to fucking believe, it's impossible. You don't have the genetics. You don't have the bone structure. You don't have the fucking biological makeup. You're not a female if you were born a male. Shut the fuck up.
Dude, I don't know how crazy our world has gotten where we've gotten into these like fantasy ideas. Cause it's like, even within that, dude, like that whole community cares so much about mental health. Like they gotta go to the therapist, they gotta do this, they gotta do that. But then they never turn around and actually say like, why do I feel like I'm the other thing? Does it root from some type of like trauma as a child? Or is it the whole concept now that it's like white males are so fucking... They're like the worst thing on the goddamn planet. You can't get a girl to talk to you if you're a single guy. Like I got friends that are in their 30s and they have no fucking luck getting females and shit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you go and you get a surgery and now you're stunning and brave and now people actually want to be in a relationship with you. Like how many people are doing
for
it
attention.
simply just because they're lonely and they want somebody to be with them. And if they're a white male, like nobody's going to want to be with them.
Well, that's the whole plan, like I said to you off air, is to get rid of the white man. And guess where all that gender ideology stuff comes from? If you study the Weimar Republic, literally Germany in the 1920s before the National Socialists came to power, the books they were burning were transgender ideology books. And there was a guy named Hirschfeld, and he was the guy that created the first transgender clinic. And he was Jewish. And guess what? In the Talmud, one of their books where they analyze the Torah, it's a huge series of books. They believe in 8 genders. All of this stuff comes back to them, and I can prove it. It's very easy if you study history.
Dude, and the messed up part is too, like I was trying to go into this whole like natural order of how things are supposed to be. And of course it's different per species. So I'm not going to say that like transgenderism isn't natural because, it's natural for aquatic animals because they fill that gap so that they can live on. That's the whole intention. The only reason why animals will naturally flip genders, and again, it's usually all aquatic animals, is when there isn't that gender around. And the whole intention for it is survival. It's not to, completely chop it off or you can't do anything with it now. It completely has the opposite effect. Every single species has their specific roles that are supposed to be filled.
Yes.
And not even to try to sound sexist, like within lions, the fucking lioness is the one that goes out, she hunts. The male is the one that stays home with the baby, protects the baby and shit like that. And the females go out and hunt. That's the roles in nature that those things are supposed to play. And that's the way
and in the human world, it's supposed to be men that do that. Men are supposed to essentially protect the family so the women can take care of the kids because they have the ability to nurture more. It's literally ingrained in their brain chemistry and their like hormone, everything. We're supposed to, the idea, and this is the biggest thing too, right? If the biggest threat to the establishment, to the government, to this new world, Jew world order, I would say, is literally the family unit. That's the biggest threat, is a strong female and male like couple, essentially. So I like this quote where it's like, strong men protect women, strong women protect children, strong families protect society. That's a fact. And
It's
that's why
like
they're
the
trying to
strong men cycle type thing. I like
Yeah.
the way it sounds.
now look at like the way that men are like weak and pathetic and cucked and like and don't want to speak for themselves. And the one of the, for all the men out there, one of the most, I think one of the most masculine things you can do is use your voice to speak out. I truly do think that, and talk, you know what I mean? And make people aware of these issues, you know?
I mean, we learned as a child that having a temper tantrum gets you fucking nowhere. So why is it now that as adults, people think having a temper tantrum is completely how you get done what you need to get done?
Crazy.
In no point in time has that ever worked. What actually gets shit done is when both sides are rational, they sit down, they talk, and they find a middle ground. But if both sides are just fucking screaming at each other, and I'm not necessarily saying one side's better than the other, because extremes on both sides are fucking ridiculous. But as long as you guys are screaming at each other, there's never going to be that common ground. Like, you guys are literally acting like little kids on the playground that are pissed off about their toys and just screaming. The screaming doesn't fucking get nowhere.
I know, and it's interesting because I've seen I like Kaylor Betts, and he's debated people that are on the other side. I would do it, but most people like snap and like go crazy and start to freak out.
There's no logical conversation.
Yeah. I would
because you're
debate
instantly
anyone
the
from
bad
the
guy
left.
if you're on the right, and you're instantly the bad guy if you're on the left. Both sides see each other as the enemies. So there's never going to be a good, solid, rational
No,
conversation.
I'm on my own side, man. I'm over here with
in the middle ground. That's where you're supposed to be.
Exactly. Well, I'm not even in the middle. I'm like somewhere. I'm off to the right, but I'm just like kind of off. I'm gonna make a joke. I'm up for everybody who knows I'm on the diagonal. For diagonal you know, I'm on the way other side of shit, you know, with the fucking with a picket sign, you know, and like I got my host head cult, and we're developing ourselves into a nation of goyim. Just kidding. It's like, you know, but like really, like everyone needs to be aware of this stuff, and it's interesting to get into this stuff while we talk about this. Because even like this Campbell guy published a paper in the Scientific Journal and Journal of Quantum Foundations. And the text outlines a series of experiments that he thinks could revolutionize our perception of our reality. 7 years on, a group of scientists from California Polytechnic University, motivated by Campbell's concept, backed by financially by nonprofit, the Center of Unification of Science and Consciousness, initiated the research. The inaugural experiment is a variation of Thomas Young's renowned double slit experiment, which is actually fascinating. Traditionally, this experiment involves passing a light beam, photons, through two slits. In the absence of the observer, the protons exhibit wave-like behavior, where the presence of the observer causes them to behave as particles. And this is crazy because
rendering sounds like rendering.
Dude, isn't that fucking crazy? Yeah,
it's a double slit experiment.
Yeah, it's a wild thing. I heard Jeremy McKenzie talk about it recently, speaking about Dagalon, and he's like they showed this where it's like, oh, I'm looking at this and it's doing something, but when I go away, it's not doing anything. Like that's crazy.
Dude, this is kind of like a partial theory that I've thrown with like the whole flat Earth, globe Earth concept. Yeah. Is that what if both sides were correct? That it literally worked like a map. That when it first started off, it was a flat square map. And then as more area needed to get rendered, as more stuff started getting added to the map, it eventually started looping around. And then people even get now into like the globe being a lot bigger than it actually is. Maybe it is turning into that, and everybody has been correct. It's just a matter of the map expanding and rendering itself
some
as
Skyrim shit where it just like it starts like loading as you're going through it. Like, and it's crazy because like one thing
other planets in space, can we actually see anything on them, or are we just looking at the fucking render? You know,
there's weird things I see, right? Like I've seen like recently too the moon, and then if you ever see like the ring around the moon where it's like it's almost like fog, but it's so weird. You can see the moon clearly, but there's like this kind of haze, but you clearly see like a huge reflective ring around the moon. Like here's the moon, and then there's this huge circle encompassing it that's like perfectly round. I've seen this numerous times, dude.
also another good question. Why the fuck do you see the moon during the day? And I've had people explain
I
this to
know.
me,
Yeah, I
and it still
know.
doesn't make. They say it's a reflection from this and from the light, and it reflects onto the ozone. I'm like, then how come you can perfectly like see the fucking moon? Maybe it is a reflection, but again, then what
Yeah.
is it reflecting on at that point? Because I don't feel like the fucking ozone is going to be able to completely perfectly reflect an image of the fucking moon. But I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
because that could be the ozone. I don't know. And they said that there's holes in the ozone layer. Is the ozone layer even fucking real for me?
maybe
Like,
it's
there's
it's going
people that
off
think
water
the sun's a
particles.
portal. There's people that think the sun is a portal.
I mean, it could be. I mean,
I know.
assumably, if there's a place where there is going to be some type of split and or wormhole in time, it is going to be where there is a giant composition of energy. So theoretically, if there would be anywhere where there would be some type of wormhole within our solar system, I would assume that it would be somewhere near the sun.
Yeah, it is. It is weird because that's quite possible too. And I don't know. Like that's why I love just questioning everything. I don't like, and I always say I don't know what to believe. You know what I mean? Like my whole stance on everything is to question absolutely everything, even yourself and your own beliefs about things. One thing I do know is I think that there's more land than they're telling us. I think there's who God knows what, maybe another continent. I don't know. I've never been there. That's why we say on the show, I'm like, I wasn't there. I wasn't there in history. I wasn't there. I've never been to Antarctica. I've never even been to Europe. You know, I don't know what's over there.
It's the same concept that everybody thinks the world's overpopulated, but you live in Canada, I live in the US, drive across the country and see how much wide open fucking space there is. It's just the cities that are clustered. And as soon as you get past the cities, it's just, you can go for fucking nothing for miles.
The world's not
Canada's
overpopulated. And everyone needs to stay where the fuck they are. I'm sorry, but it's you want to travel to countries and see different cultures. That's the idea, right? Is if I want to go to England, the idea was I want to see the English culture, right? The British culture, or the Scottish culture. But now because of the clergy plan, it's pronounced differently, but that's how I pronounce it. The guy's got a very German Jewy name.
Clotchy.
It's KALERGI.
Klotzik.
Clutch. I don't know. It's
I'm just gonna yell random stuff that sounds
I
kind
know.
of German. It might work.
I've heard it, and I was like, "Wow, I've been pronouncing this so long. I'm just gonna keep sticking with it." But this is only happening in the Western world, right? Japan's not doing this, China's not doing this. So, like, if there's a Japanese guy that went to England, went to London, England, and was like, and the guy interviewed him, and he's like, "This is not England." He's like, "I came here to see the English culture and the British culture, or whatever, right?" And he was like, he's like, "I just see a bunch of Muslims and different people that are not English." He's like, "Where's all the English people?" Because they all left like the London and some of the bigger cities because they're being overrun by letting in fucking like third world migrants that shouldn't be there in the first place. And then there's like all this. I hate this stuff. I can't get into it again, but
you get into Japan though, and it's like you got to get with their culture, and if you don't, then everybody like scrutinizes you until you get with their culture.
100%. That's how it should be. Multiculturalism is a cancer on the Western world, and I truly believe that. I think the idea of multiculturalism is actually a bad thing because if you have too many, I've said this before, but you have too many,
takes away from the original culture, and then the people don't actually get to experience their original culture. Like once a culture is developed, you should let it establish as it is so that you can actually go back and enjoy that. Once everything gets mixed, all the culture gets lost. And again, maybe it's an idea to try to spark chaos because nobody feels like they can be part of a specific camp. Like
it's about destroying the national identity. That's I truly believe that because everyone, it's a radical individualism. So everyone's like, it's about me and me, my thing, and me. Life is a team sport, and more people need to realize this. And the more that you try to blend different cultures into a country that already has an existing culture, because like you know, my beliefs on what happened to the indigenous may be very different than yours or whatever like that. But at the end of the day, people were conquered. They were conquered. So this is being paid by us. This is a taxpayer invasion of people that shouldn't be here, are causing more crime, more division. And at the end of the day, it's only going to hurt everybody. Right. So like you have Indians that are in our government that want to represent India. And then you have some, like you have dual citizenship. You shouldn't have any dual dual citizenship at all in Canada, in any country. You should hold allegiance to the country that you're in. But there is people, right? When you try to blend all these cultures together, you have too many different ethnicities, different languages, different cultures. It causes
divides
nothing
the people
but
even within a
division.
small community. Yeah,
Yes.
I was going to say it divides people even within a small community.
Yeah, diversity is division. I'm sorry if you don't like that, but that is a fact. And I can prove it, and I will debate anybody that is for diversity.
And here's the thing, though. It's an animal instinct. I see this with my fucking chickens. I see this with every single animal. Animals will stay in a group that is similar to them because that's protection. They hide within the group. You don't want to be the one fucking, bright red chicken in the group of all the white chickens, because now you stick out like a sore thumb.
I know.
It's a natural thing that without people realizing it, if you get put with a big group of people, with a big diversity of people, of course, there is going to be those people that kind of mix up here and there. But for the most part, people will end up going with the group that they're familiar with. And that is not out of any type of racial anything. It's from a survival instinct that's still instilled in the back of your mind.
Yeah, you see this. And it's interesting,
There's
right?
protection within the group. That's
it's interesting just because I can't stop pointing this out because Canada, everyone sees that Canada's turning into India. We're bringing all I will say this again, and I don't care. The collective IQ of India is 76. Yes, there is smart people within billions of people.
Talk about the opposite side of the spectrum, though, because look at some of these Indian doctors, and then I look at the other side of it.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. You're gonna get some good eggs out of billions of people. There's 3.4 billion Indians. It's absurd, or 1.3. It might be 1.3 billion. You know what I mean? And then so they come here and they all collectivize in their own center. Sikhs stick with Sikhs, and then Hindus stick with Hindus, and then they're fighting in our streets. There's literally Sikhs running around with swords and shit. It's causing this country to collapse. I didn't want to get into this on this. But
yeah, we totally sidetracked into some political shit. Apparently, both of us were just kind of bottling over and just needed to fucking.
Yeah, it's fine. It's part of the show and kind of it's what happens. But you were
I don't
talking
think you could call this one simulation theory at this point.
Oh, I'm gonna still call it that. Technically, we are talking about that, but it's the idea, that it feeds into itself that we are living in this simulation, and it's these people are all. But I just want to end the point of but if you're white and you collectivize, oh no, you're a Nazi, you're a fucking white supremacist, you're this, you're that. And I just want to say this for the
That's why they push them into the Stunning and Brave crowd, is because everybody wants to be able to hold on to something, and if you can't be proud of being white, you hold on to being stunning and brave.
There's less than 8% of the population is white, the worldwide population. I'm going to keep bringing up that fact because that's a fucking fact. Less than 8% of the worldwide population is white. Okay, so we're the real minority. So everybody shut the fuck up. When you come into our countries that are our homes, you are the minority because these are our home that you want to invade and fucking take over and then cry you're the minority. Go to fucking Africa where there's literally fucking billions of you, or go to India where there's billions of you, or China where there's billions of you. And that's my guff. I'm you guys come here and cry minority. There's billions of you on the other side of the fucking world. Maybe the Jews shouldn't have brought you over here in the slave trade because that's who owned all of the slave ships. Sorry, I had to say that. It's true. Christopher Columbus wasn't Jew.
Every single race at some point has been a slave, so people can't even throw that one anymore.
Dude, the word slave comes from Slavic.
Yeah, so it originally comes from fucking Slavic culture, which is, again, all white for anybody that doesn't realize
Maybe
that.
I'll call this one, because when we go too far off, I call it off-topic simulation theory, because it's we're still talking about it. But I had to vent this, and it keeps coming up on the show, but I'm getting I'm witnessing, especially in the last 2 years, my country change into something that I don't even fucking recognize. It's getting wild in Canada, and it's only getting way worse. There's literally people fighting in the streets, carrying swords. The crime rate has gone up 4,000%. It's fucked,
dude.
You
got pockets in the United States where it's you got the Venezuelan gangs over in Chicago and stuff like that. Every single state kind of has their own cluster. And at least for Michigan, our primary that we seem to have taken on is people that are Ukrainian and people that are from the Middle East. So it's it's gotten to the point, dude, you're talking about the division, man. I work in cannabis, and every single cannabis company I've worked at, there's a hard fucking division between people that speak Arabic and people that don't. And the one side will purposely never make sure that the other side knows what they're saying. And it's a hard dividing line to the point where it's they'll look at you and they'll talk shit in a different language. And you're just dude, I don't know what you're saying. It was getting so bad the other day, dude. I was going to start bringing out my phone and start Google translating it out loud every single time they start ranting at somebody. Like,
I would be
don't know
doing
what
that
to
shit.
fucking
Like,
tell you,
no,
man. Like,
you speak English when you come to America.
if you're
speak
going to yell
English
at
or
me,
French
you at
in
least
Canada.
got to let me know what you're saying. If you're yelling at me in a different language, I don't know what you're saying.
And if we went there and did that, our heads would be cut off. So just wait, everybody. Our tolerance will wear thin at some point, and we'll do what people have always done throughout history, especially Europeans. Spain was taken over by Muslims in hundreds of years ago. I can't remember the exact date. And guess what? There was this Spanish farmers living out in the middle of nowhere, and they revolted and they took back their country. So I would be wary of pushing us too far. The government will try to push us as far as they can, and then you're going to see all hell break loose.
They want to start the new revolution, man. Because even on the other side, here's the thing, though. Think about the logic behind this shit. Because you got to imagine them. They're not just playing chess, bro. They're playing like that 3-dimensional chess and shit from fucking Star Trek, man.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole intention, I think, is that they want a revolution. They want chaos to ensue. So they're trying to push our group to that point. Because once all of us fight, again, what happens? A bunch of us are going to die off, and now their strong men numbers are a lot lower.
Oh, I know. That's what's going to happen.
It makes the system easily to control. So it's like everybody wants a revolution. Everybody wants this to start and all this kind of shit. But on the other side, it may be exactly what they want.
Yeah, so they can consolidate the power or bring in martial law and stuff.
Or they played the masculine card, and they're like, "Oh, you're a masculine man. I guess you better go fight in a war." And then what happens every time?
World War III, they send majority white strong men. And that's what I'm saying. The Kalergi plan, as I said, I'm not pronouncing it correctly. And we'll get into it because we're going to cover this on a whole episode, me and Aaron, because Aaron's pissed off and he's in Ireland because he sees his Irish culture being fucking destroyed. And the idea is to blend everyone into one ethnic group that has a IQ lower than 90, so they just know how to work. That's it. So speaking about simulation theory, that's the idea of just having a slave race of people, which certain peoples, not just the people that really control the British Empire, the people that really control Israel, the people that really control China. So these people these families that have existed for literally, I think, if they're inhuman, they're not human, they're probably some sort of reptilian, but like very malevolent force that parasitically leeches off our energy. They're gonna get exactly what they want, and they just want this slave race of people that they can. That's at the end of the day, they're coming after all of us, no matter what skin color you are, or what your beliefs are, right, left, fucking black, white.
Yeah, if you're not them, then you're the enemy. As
George Carlin said, it's a big club and you aren't in it. So that split theory is just wild that, it is weird because is it like the particles are behaving differently? So Campbell talks about this idea that the universe operates on a principle similar to like the observer effect. Without the observer, he suggests, the world as we know it ceases to exist and only materializes in its familiar form when we observe it again. So consider a typical video game when you navigate through a virtual world, exploring and battling monsters. This world only renders when observed. When it's not in view, it exists merely as like a dormant code that springs to life upon your return.
This is like the whole rendering concept, bro, that I was talking about. Because it's kind of like, does a bear shit in the woods? Does anybody hear a tree if it falls in the woods? I mean, if there's nobody to observe it and no ears that it falls upon, did it ever actually happen, or was it just part of the coding?
I know. That's why I'm like, and there's so many people sharing all these different experiences. And do we have this collective consciousness, right? Like, and that's at the end of the day, I used to preach, and it's like, just because we went off a little bit, like, I used to preach this unity and stuff like that. And like, we all got to come together and love each other and all embrace each other's differences. I do think that is true to some extent, but because the attack I've seen specifically on the Canadian people, the real Canadian people, at the end of the day, I have beef with the whole push for to make Whitey feel bad for conquering North America and stuff like that. But I do think that at the end of the day, the indigenous people and the white people need to band together against this shit. I'm not gonna lie. I think that those.
The genetics are so mixed at this point. I mean, the family lines are all connected. I mean,
I know.
Prime example, bro. The fucking Cherokees are known for being not Native American looking, but pretty Caucasian looking because they were like the first ones that got mixed in. So even 100% Cherokee, like my grandma, they definitely have the native features, but they definitely have a pretty white skin complexion to them. I mean,
well, you ever heard about the Wagas?
I don't think so.
There's an indigenous legend, I think in North Carolina, that the indigenous were in contact with an ancient white race of giants. They said they had red hair, so it sounds like Nephilim, but they used to have swastikas all over their like the tribal art and their clothes, all that stuff. And supposedly that symbol was given to them or shown to them somehow by these Wagas. And there's theories. There's a veteran that I've had on the show. He's going to come back on probably tomorrow, once we record this or whatever. Like people won't know the time or whatever. But he's worked in Nunavut and worked with the indigenous communities and talked to chiefs and all that stuff. And there's the Seven Fires prophecy, and there's this idea that there was white people that were existing already in North America with the indigenous, and they lived. They were unified. They actually lived together in harmony. And then listen, this is the craziest thing is when the Europeans showed up, they put people in residential schools and they split the white people that are already here from the indigenous people.
Do you want to hear something even more fucked up that kind of connects into what you were saying too?
Yeah.
You get into all the South American cultures, and what ended up happening to them? The fucking conquistadors came, and the reason why they didn't attack them was because they had all these stories about people that gave them technology.
Yes.
And they taught them how to build the pyramids, and they're all fucking like white people and shit. So they thought that they were the gods coming back, which proves again that there was something here. And whether you want to view it as like a whole other race, I see it as an advanced culture that they shared the technology with, and all this weird shit that you see where it's like the perfect fucking fitting giant blocks. And then as it goes up, it gets not as good. I think that came from that fucking culture. And how many different stories, bro, talk about like, oh, we came from underground. Sounds to me like there was some type of fucking meteor disaster, and the intelligent races either one took off to another planet, which was probably the elites of that race at the time, and what happened to the rest of us, which would have been the people like us. We did what we could while we were here, and they probably all went fucking underground and then came back up and said, all right, let's restart this shit.
Yeah, that's what's crazy too. So I'm like, man, like people need to stop. Like, we can't live in the past. We live now, and the detrimental effects that multiculturalism, diversity, and I'm all about like, sure, immigration can be a good thing slowly, and if people integrate into the society that that already exist in these places, right? And like for people like in Canada, a lot of people try to really push this narrative of like this is indigenous land and stuff like that. We've given them $30.5 billion this year alone. So my tax dollars just pay for people to exist. So I'm like not about this. Like I'm not going to feel sympathy anymore. I just want people to realize that the things are happening now are bad and terrible. We've done what we could for what we tried. We've paid our dues for what happened in the past.
We're past generations from that anyways.
Yeah,
I mean, even
know.
going into like the slave stuff in the United States. I mean, there are some like tail end people that are getting really fucking old now, maybe that grew up in like the 50s. But again, that wasn't the slave owners and shit like that. All the slave owners are gone. Anybody that's known a fucking slave owner is gone. So it's like, why does anybody have to make up for their mistakes of their ancestors when their ancestors are like fucking 5-6 generations back? Like, I have no tie to that. My ideology is not the same as my fucking ancestors. We're all here now. I can't fucking change that. So are we all going to get along here? Or are you going to be pissed off at me for something that I had no fucking control over?
Had nothing to do with
200 years before I was even
I
thought
know.
of.
Guess what? Black people sold themselves into slavery. Some of the first black slaves were sold by black people. And guess what? Black people are still selling black people into slavery today, into the cobalt mines. So you can't fucking shove your like fake narrative that the government brainwashed you to believe down my throat, because I don't believe your bullshit. And guess what? Check this out.
In the past, they trade for guns. It's exactly the same shit that's happening.
Dude, 0.8% of white people owned slaves back then. The rest of those people were of Ashkenazi descent. They were Jewish. That's a fact. You can look this shit up. It's wild. 0.8% people. Like, you think these country bumpkins could afford a fucking slave? It was these rich oligarchs and the people that facilitated the slave trade. Almost every single slave ship was owned by an Ashkenazi. That is a fucking fact. And people don't even know this shit. And then once I start looking and diving down these rabbit holes, that's why I bring it up, because I'm like, I'm trying to educate people throughout these episodes, because I don't know if the world's a simulation, right? I don't know if
Probably
it is real. It probably is. But if it's real or fake or whatever, I don't know if aliens are going to come save us. I don't know if Jesus is going to come save us. All I know is right now, our countries are being destroyed and they're using people as weapons. That's a fact. They're using people as weapons to destroy the national identity of countries that already exist. And then they want to destroy it from within. Like, that's what I know physically is happening, that I see with my own eyes.
On top of
Right?
the fact that you see culture getting destroyed, but
Yes.
with people that think they have a good motivation behind it. Like when fucking
I
ISIS was
know.
going around, and everybody has their conspiracies with ISIS, but think about how many fucking ancient temples, ancient artifacts they destroyed. And even going into like, not to get too far into the fucking left again, but these people are trying to make a point about like oil is bad. So what do? They go to these fucking paintings that are like 300-400 years old and fucking
know.
throw paint all over them and glue themselves to them. It's like,
It's
what
fucked. They're
point are you
crazy.
proving to an artist that existed 3, 4, fucking 500 years ago about not using oil, and now you've just destroyed a valuable part of human history?
You know what's interesting
job.
about ISIS, right? Everybody think about this. What did ISIS do? ISIS went around and killed and maimed and destroyed the
All
culture.
wearing, all had American Army tattoos.
Not that's part of it, but more Mossad. Go towards more Mossad. Think about this. The Taliban was trained by the Israeli army. It's funny how all this stuff comes back to this because I can just something gets brought up, I want to like lay some facts down. But think about this. ISIS, the Taliban was facilitated to combat against the Soviet Union at the time, and they called them freedom fighters. And the Taliban was trained by Israel. Same with Al Qaeda. And then think about this. ISIS was going around and destroying the enemies of Israel, but yet they were supposed to be Muslim. That makes no fucking sense, people. They were destroying like ancient Eurasian fucking art and architecture and buildings and all the stuff that to erase their history. And why would they be doing this if they were Muslim and they were for the Muslim cause? They were literally destroying what the Israelis needed them to destroy. And it's funny that they needed the 9/11 to take place to facilitate the 7 different countries that they needed to invade and destroy that they admitted on record. So
I mean,
pretty
even
weird.
that kind of goes into the heroin trade too, because fucking
Oh,
Bush's dad was Poppy. That's his fucking nickname.
Yeah.
And they need an
That's
excuse to get back over there so that they can get the heroin trade running again to get all that secret government program money.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. And people don't
So
realize
they
that.
moved over to sex trafficking. That's what they're doing now. That
Oh,
federal
yeah.
government makes money off of fentanyl and sex trafficking now.
That's true. China facilitates it. They just busted a huge super lab that was owned by China and Canada, but run by Punjabi Indians. So they're all working together at destroying this country, and they're trying to get everyone hooked on fentanyl. Fentanyl should be classified as a chemical weapon, and anybody that's selling it or producing it should be put to death.
We just call
I
it
do
poison.
think that. Yeah, it's
I mean,
poison.
it's fucking as
It's a
deadly as
chemical weapon.
you can eat more fucking arsenic than you can have fentanyl.
I know,
Like,
it's
put
fucking
that into your
crazy.
fucking mind, dude. It takes
It
like a
almost killed me,
milligram of
man.
fentanyl to
Fucking
kill
crazy.
somebody. You can have more fucking all the shit that we were scared of, like a fucking asbestos, like all the fucking
Yeah,
major
I know.
chemicals we were scared of, dude. Like way fucking less will kill you with fucking fentanyl. And we
It's
consider those
nuts.
poison.
It's so funny. I'm like, who knows what I'll call this episode? It's still going to be simulation, but like some of these aspects, like people have to deal with what's actually going on in the physical aspect. Like Jeremy McKenzie went to Kandahar, in Afghanistan, and he had to protect the poppy fields, and he was like, "Why are we doing this?" And he was like asking questions. They didn't let him fucking ask questions, and now he's
Dude, I've talked to so
enemy
many
number
old
one.
Vietnam vets that have told me that the safest place to be in Vietnam was on the cocaine boats. If that says
course.
anything. Like
Yeah,
I had
sure.
one fucking dude that was a security guard at one of the cannabis facilities I worked at, and he was like a special tactics fucking guy from like Vietnam and shit. He had
Yeah.
so many fascinating stories, bro. But yeah, he would always come back to this recurring idea that both sides knew not to shoot at the cocaine boats. It's the safest place to be during Vietnam is on the cocaine boats.
So funny. So many works of science fiction, as well as some forecast of renowned technologists or futurologists, predicts the enormous amount of computing power that will be available in the future. Suppose for a moment that these predictions are correct. One thing that later generations could do, as we kind of talked about, with their super powerful computers would be to run a detailed simulation of their ancestors or similar people, because the computers would be really powerful and they could run many simulations of this type. This is wild. Suppose that these simulated people are aware, and they could be the cast that the vast majority of minds like ours do not belong to the original race, but the people simulated by the advanced descendants of the original race. Then it is possible to argue that if that is the case, it would be rational to think that we are probably among the simulated minds and not among the original biological ones. In short, our life and everything, it is a computer simulation, or at least that's what Nick Bromstrom, a philosopher at the University. Bromstrom.
I'm just gonna say everything like I'm German now.
A philosopher at the University of Oxford suggests in 2003 when he said that a member of an advanced civilization with enormous computing power would have the ability to perform simulations of their ancestors. Although this is most surprising of all, as there's many investigations that show that it is very likely that we are interacting with simulated minds. But George Holtz, another sounds German, the most famous hacker and programmer, is the latest technological celebrity to ensure that our future is a simulation built by a society more advanced than ours. What's more, he wants to hack it. He wants to hack the simulation world. We are living in a computer simulation, so pretty crazy. So yeah, the American computer and hacker expert George Holtz ensures during an expedition at the SXSW 2019 conference held in Austin, USA. Obviously, I don't know why I need.
This dude's gonna get a knock on his door with a message that says "Follow the White Rabbit."
I know, 100%. No, it's not going down the rabbit hole anymore. It's going down the rabbi hole.
Well, I think that maybe a different way.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe the rabbi is going into a hole.
That's true. Yeah. The underground tunnels are everywhere. Yeah, that's why they are everywhere, dude. There's tunnels fucking everywhere. The fact that there was literally, think about that, in Brooklyn, just a random fucking tunnel where there's like bloodstained mattresses.
How fucking crazy was it to see the fucking people swarm out of that tunnel in that video? Like, what the fuck?
Dude, people think like this is just wait till it really starts popping off and people really start to expose what's going on with this stuff, because it's
bloodstained mattress. I mean,
there was fucking baby shit down there. Like, man,
bloodstained mattress only results in one fucking thing.
I think they were sacrificing Goyim children because there's
sacrificing or another word you can't say on YouTube.
Yeah.
Intercourse that isn't unwanted.
Yeah. Rape. That's what we say.
Rape.
Well, of course.
El Rapo.
There's claims that they they put blood in their matzo balls and shit. There's like wild shit. I don't know if this is true, but just a theory. Everything we say on here, every single thing I've ever said on this podcast is just for comedic material. Just remember that, everybody that's out there listening, watching, if you're part of the government or anything that anyone trying to investigate me, everything is just it's just for fun. Take nothing seriously, because this is all just speculation and theory. That's it.
Well, just something to think about, though. We've all had it instilled in us that cannibalism is bad. And obviously, it's not moral. It's definitely bad. But then on the other side, how come it seems like all these people that are on the top of the ladder seem to know something more about it, and they seem to be something they get into? Are they trying to keep something from the masses that's beneficial? And that's when you get into adrenochrome. I definitely think that there is dark, I don't want to say positives because they're not positives, but if you're dark, there are positives to consuming human flesh.
Yeah, well, there must be, because that's why they're doing it. Like, whatever people can think it's some crazy conspiracy. You only know the surface level. There was an island where they fucked children to death, man. A literal island where they did this. Not supposedly.
Dude, these islands are everywhere. I figured out that there was like a molesting island in fucking Michigan. It's called like South Fox Island, and it was run by the people that were running GM back in the fucking 70s.
They've had this
set it up
forever,
like a summer camp where everybody would come. It'd be like a summer camp, and then at night, the GM people would come.
Wow. Everyone stop calling it Epstein's Island. It was Mossad's island. Mossad owned that fucking island.
I'm still fucking convinced Hugh Hefner was playing the same fucking role. It was just a matter of he knew how to keep his fucking mouth shut.
There was underground tunnels under the fucking Playboy Mansion, and same with Diddy's fucking mansion. And you were
recording underage, or people having intercourse with underage people to collect blackmail. And I've heard this from fucking endless people, man.
Me too.
Power is not in wealth. Power is within knowledge and blackmail. Because it doesn't matter how much fucking money you have. If you have that little piece of information on somebody, you can make somebody do something that you could never pay them a dollar amount that they would ever do. If you have that little fucking piece of information.
It's crazy. And
then you fucking fall off from their system at all. And what happens to you? You end up like Epstein. You end up like Diddy. You end up becoming an example.
And where's the client?
They got to throw one to the wolves.
Yeah.
Every once in a while to put the blame that it's this fucking guy. Yeah. So that everybody else can just go off and do what they're going to do and scurry around like fucking roaches while everybody's pointing the thumb at this fucking guy. But again, like you said, you never see these fucking names. That make the list that Ghislaine Maxwell supposedly had. Nobody ever heard shit from the fucking list.
Well, I think it was her sister that was directly involved with creating the Amber Alert, because they just do that to distract you, to make you think, oh yeah, like we're trying to report if these children go missing. If they reported the amount of children that go missing, actually did the real
it's
number
higher than it's ever been, and I get like 1 Amber Alert a year.
Listen, they would your phone would be going off every 2 minutes. I'm not kidding. That's how
sooner than that. Shit.
40,000 children go missing in Canada a year. And in the States, it's like 300,000. So,
and this sounds fucked up, but in Canada, are they even counting anybody that may have gone missing from like the native population? Because that seems to be like a huge fucking thing. So I guarantee you those numbers,
they want the blood, dude.
They're up by 75% of what they are.
Chills. Yeah, they want supposedly they're I'm going to talk with this with Troy, the veteran that I'm getting on to break down some of the stuff with the Seven Fires prophecy. We'll probably get into some other stuff at some point. But he thinks they're going after the blood, and the indigenous have a certain type of blood that these lizards want.
You want to hear something kind of weird to think about, though? So I had this guy on the other day on Inquiries who's a native guy, and it's really hard to get fucking native people to come on and actually talk about their perspective of like Sasquatch or anything, right? So basically how he explained Sasquatch, because we were talking about the whole like consciousness thing, like are these things more intelligent than us? Are we more intelligent than them? And he's like, it's not even that at all. He's like, we are the bastard children. They are the perfect epitome of human. They are the ones that have learned how to adapt. They can survive. He said, even the smallest squirrel is smarter than you are because it can survive out in the wild with absolutely nothing. He's like, these Sasquatches are the epitome of what people were, and we dissected into a totally different direction. So it would completely make sense because the genetics for Sasquatch are mixed with native genetics. Yeah. So if you are looking at the possibility of Sasquatch, even if you believe that they don't exist anymore, you may believe they existed at some point, no matter which stance you have on Sasquatch, if you're looking at it from the native perspective, they are like the perfect epitome of human. So who's to say that it couldn't be the same for anything else? Because again, if you want to build a super soldier, like what fucking better DNA would you have than fucking Sasquatch DNA that you could drop in any fucking climate and condition and this thing can find a way to survive?
Well, and that's why I'm like, I call out some of the rhetoric when it comes to like the indigenous, especially because they're trying to, a lot of those communities do try to blame Whitey for everything, right? But I do think that I would like to see more of the indigenous culture being blended into white culture, technically, like to kind of learn from each other, because at the end of the day, right, I think we need to learn from how they survived off the land a little better. Because, I make this point all the time, and I made this point on a video where I was calling out some of this stuff that it went pretty viral, talking about how, it's not stolen because like they had no concept of ownership and stuff like that. And the indigenous were like killing each other for land, right? The same way that the English were killing the Scottish and trying to enslave them, and the Irish and all that stuff, right? Everyone's been warring with each other over pieces of land. But this idea, things happen. It's the past. I can't change what happened back then, right? But there is more people from fucking India in the fucking Canadian government than there is natives. So I think that I would way rather see a bunch of native representation in the government than some fucking guy with a towel on his head from India. I'm sorry if it was like, that's racist. I don't give a shit, man. You shouldn't be in our government if you weren't here for generations, either white or indigenous, because in the Canadian flag, there is no Canadian flag. It's the Irish, Scottish, the English, and the French. Those are the people that built Canada. And then underneath on the original flag, the ensign flag shows the rest of Canada, which was the indigenous that are already here that we made deals with. And the French fought on the side of the indigenous. There's so many nuances to this story. It's not just one thing. Like
people make it seem like it's split. But again, think about how many. Okay, so yeah, there were groups that came in and they gave the natives and stuff like that blankets that had SARS and all this other shit on it. But on the other half, how many fucking like French trappers and stuff coming from like Michigan, where we were pretty much founded by French trappers. Every single fucking old story that you hear about this shit, they fell in love with a native woman and they blended together. It was never like a whole thing that they took them captive. They fucking traded for them. Nothing like that. They literally blended the culture because they honestly had feelings and love for each other. And that's where that culture came in. And everybody forgets the fact that not all of it was as blood and gore as people think it was. There were a lot of fucking fur trappers, settlers, all that
Dude,
shit.
yeah, I
They were
know.
falling in love with the people of the time, and they were blending
And
as
they were
cultures
blending in,
together.
and they were helping each other. It's crazy. I have this book. It's
All
like
the fucking French trapper leather. Where do you think that whole
Yeah.
fucking attire came from with the fray and everything? It came from fucking native culture
I
because they were
know.
blending together.
And I do respect. I just want people to understand. I do respect the indigenous. I'm just not being told that I have anything to do with what happened to them because I don't, and neither did my ancestors. My family's been here since the early. I traced one of my grandmas on my mom's side. We've been here since literally the beginning of the 1600s, and then before that, I traced her back to America, and then it ends. I don't know where, which is like literally the 1600 before that. My family's been here since like the 1500s. I don't know what the fuck. Like they were, and a lot of these people that came over here, it was the government, the Vatican, and all of these like the Freemasons, the secret societies that were institutionalizing these colonizations, right? The people that came here that barely survived making it over here on boats had nothing to do with what happened to the indigenous because they were just trying to survive, and they showed up here. People were trying to kill them, and they had to like live off the land, which they did. It was not the same as what it was in Ireland or Scotland or England or whatever, right? So at the end of the day, we need to stop living in the past and realizing the bad things that are happening now. But yeah, like it's crazy. We have more people from foreign countries in our government and then fulfilling their government's agenda. Like, you know what I mean? You come from India and then you like, or wherever. There's a guy from Iran that's a dual citizenship with Iran, right? And then you come here and then you can slowly kind of insert yourselves and then do things for the country that you came from, because that's what's happening. They're sucking Canada and soon America. They're sucking it dry, where they're like trying to suck every resource and everything from us to give to their own people. That's why multiculturalism does not work.
You guys are the testing grounds, unfortunately, for this shit.
know,
I've heard
we
that
are.
time and time again, that whenever it comes into all of this type of shit, Canada's always the testing ground. And then
Yeah,
it starts moving into the US.
Yeah, it's fucked, dude. So like they believe that, you know, this guy, at least this George Holtz guy, is convinced that like we're living in a simulation created by beings much more advanced than us, either
This shit is so
extraterrestrial
fucking
or
chaotic.
artificial.
There's no way, man. Like,
I know. Artificial intelligence, which is like the craziest thing too. We can eventually maybe do an AI episode of diving more into this. But he wants to like jailbreak the simulation. It's easy to imagine things that are much smarter than you, but could you build a cage that you wouldn't even recognize? And I've stated this, David Icke's talked about this many times, is like we're living in a glass cage, you know? There's the form of dictatorship, like a dictatorship where you can see the bars and you can touch them. But there's the other form of, a dictatorship where you don't see the bars, you can't touch them, and you think you're free, but you're not.
or what if we all are DMT entities,
I
and
know.
when you wake up, you're gonna realize that you're sitting around your bros who are other DMT entities, and you're gonna be smoking DMD or TMD.
That's
Bro,
scary
this shit
stuff.
was trippy as fuck. There was a bunch of people just going about their normal lives, and they weren't fucking like
Dude,
creating things with their
yeah.
vocalizations, man. Like, I can't even fathom this shit.
We need to do I think it'd be fun to do an episode on DMT entities.
Oh my, dude, I put one together at some one point, actually. I have like a full script for that shit.
Oh, let's do that then. Save that for me, and we'll do that for both of our shows.
Oh, I did that
That'll
a
be fun.
long ass time ago for Bizarre Encounters. We can definitely bring that shit back
Okay,
up. I already
sick.
got like 5 or 6 pages on it.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. That's actually pretty interesting. So I that's a good time to wrap it up. Like I do think that it's probably conceivable that we do live in some sort of simulation. I'm literally gonna call this multiculturalism in the simulation theory or something like that. Because realistically, I'm just trying to inform people, and sometimes you just get my raw thoughts on these
You can
episodes
just call
and
it
stuff.
2 pissed off guys. That'll work
I
too.
know, it's like literally, that
2
I
pissed
just
off
try to,
Williams.
yeah, too pissed off Goyam. I just try to inform people of kind of like what's going on, and at least try to like show you like, hey, like there's some weird shit going on. And I don't believe in pushing division, but I do believe in standing up for my own people. That I'm not that you're not allowed to do. Like, I'm not saying just white people, but like Canadians that have been here for generations, or Americans that have been here for generations. Because there's Chinese Canadians that have, been here forever. But the thing is, like I've always said to people, right? If I go anywhere in the world, I am still Canadian. But if a guy from India, even if he's been here or Chinese or whatever, even if they've been here for multiple generations, they go to China, they'll look like all of those people, right? So the thing is, the Canadian people, same as the American, they built themselves into a people.
We're
right?
all the same fucking people. Let's just
kind of
we're
actually,
built up
yeah.
with natives, and we're white, and we all came from the French, the English.
Yes.
Like Canada and America are the same
Very
fucking
similar.
people. It's just a divider line.
Yeah, and then listen, it is very similar because we still came from the original same people that I said that literally built themselves into a people. That's
Especially
why,
being from Michigan, it's like
Yeah.
it's basically the same goddamn
It
place.
is
bro.
the same
In a different
people.
reality, they were, they were the same fucking country, you know?
it is the same. We come from the same ancestral strains and stuff like that. Technically, right? It's just a dividing line. But right, that's the idea is like I did a video on this where I'm like, what is a Canadian? And I describe because nobody seems to know. They're like, oh, they made Tim Hortons and they, fucking hockey, and it's like, no. We come from a people, right? And that's like I said, the English, the Irish, the Scottish, and the French, and then we blended together. That's why you hear an English accent, do you hear an Irish accent, do you hear a Scottish accent? No, because we blended ourselves into a people, and it literally made its own language.
And it's all the nasally shit because it's the same as the Michigan accent. The Canadian accent and the Michigan accent are exactly the same, just minus a couple different words that you throw in and out. It's all the nasally shit. We talk with our back of our throats because we're not used to being able to breathe out of our fucking nose because we're all in the north.
I know, it's so funny. It is true, man. I actually had a lot of fun on this episode, and I got to kind of vent about some of my frustrations with the way that Canada's going and some of the shit that's going on in the world.
I only got to do one voice, and I was pretty bummed out about that. It's been a hot minute since you've had somebody that does accents on the show, bro, and I got a lot of accents, and I was waiting to use them on your show, but I only got an opportunity to do the German one, man.
Well, Brett, my buddy Brett, is like, he hasn't been on it a bit, but he does some pretty good accents. He does them at work all the time, and it makes me fucking laugh. So I gotta
limit myself from doing them at work because I'll get myself in trouble. But a podcast is a perfect place.
Yeah, I know. I try, and all the fans probably think it's hilarious because me and Aaron were talking about how fucking how offshoot they go sometimes. But like, I thought this was fun and something different and kind of more of like, I told you, I want to do this more of like a rant style episode, have a little fun with it. But yeah, for everybody that's listening, definitely go check out Inquiries of Reality. You can follow on Instagram.
Of our reality. We talked about this in the beginning, bro.
Inquiries of our
There's
reality.
an extra word there.
I know. Fuck. I cut off words so many times of when I'm like doing shit. But yeah, like definitely go
part of the Canadian accent.
That's true. Go support his show. You can follow on Instagram. You know what I mean? We'll post some clips and stuff like that, and maybe we'll collaborate on clips so everyone can see and kind of go find it both of our Instagrams and all that stuff. And everybody support the show. 5-star rating reviews. If you didn't like something I said, to get over it, we don't all have to think the same. I always bring this up where I'm like, you don't have to agree with everything I say. That's not what this show is about. That's not what podcasting is supposed to be about, or speaking your mind is supposed to be about. You're supposed to be like, okay, I found that interesting, but I think this way. And that's like cool for you to think whatever the ways you want to think. But I've spent a lot of time reading, researching, thinking about things all the time, like everybody else does. But I spent a lot of time looking into this stuff, especially about history and where we come from and who I am and where my ancestors come from and shit. So like, I'm sick of being pushed around just because I'm white and told that everyone else's problems, I'm to blame because I'm a white man. So you can go, well, fuck yourself.
Ain't that the truth? Right.
So yeah, everybody support the show, and we'll see you next time. We'll definitely try to do this a little more often. It's sometimes that our schedules are a little different, but we'll try to throw something together. I'll come on your show. We'll do something sooner than later. You know what I mean?
Sounds good to me, man. We got to get everybody all together for one, because I still have yet to do a show with fucking Billy.
I know. I want to do a big live stream, man. Billy might have more time available soon, so it will be interesting because I already have a ton of ideas for us. So, and I've been trying to get Aaron to have all three of us on, even just me, him, and Billy.
If you can get the trifecta with all four, we can call it the Circle Jerk Bros.
Oh, that'd be very funny. We'll definitely have to do that live stream at some point. And I've been trying to get all three of us together, me, Aaron, and Billy, and it's never worked out. Like, Aaron was supposed to be on the Halloween.
I got Billy once, and he had a phone sitting on a desk. I think it was for fucking like, what was that? St. Patrick's Day or something like that.
No, right? Fucking God, it's so funny.
That was back before Aaron days.
It's crazy. Oh yeah, that's so actually pretty crazy, man. It's wild how long we've actually known each other in this podcasting game.
Fucking almost 3 years now. Like,
Yeah, that's wild. That's actually pretty wild, dude. That is weird when you think about it.
and the
like,
crazy part is you're only like a fucking stone throw away from me, and we have yet to actually meet each other in
I
person.
know, and I
even though,
keep
like,
saying this. I like, you know what the craziest shit in the world is?
I'm like 20 minutes from the Canadian border, bro.
I've never
Literally
been
20
to
minutes.
America, dude. I've never been to America. Is that crazy?
Well, if you cross the border into Michigan, especially if you hit the Detroit area, there ain't much to see.
I know it's fucking true. I definitely coming down the States at some point. Like my life's been hectic and crazy most of my life, and
I've been wanting to try this
idiot.
thing, man. We got the Masonic Temple in Detroit. It was one of the original temples started by Crowley. Have you seen those videos of those guys, where they'll get into like movie theaters and shit like that,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
carrying the ladders together? I've been wanting to see what is in this fucking library, bro. We got to break into this occult library, and all we simply have to do is tell them we're there to fix shit. We just got to walk into the Masonic Temple with a ladder, steal a couple of Crowley's original
Yeah.
books, and
So
bam.
everyone ignore what he just said. We'll talk about this off air.
Yeah, that never happened. That was allegedly.
Everything
If
is alleged.
that ends up happening in the news, this is my thing right now saying that it was not us.
Yeah, it was not us. I've never been to America. I don't know when I've planned to go. My life is very busy at the moment.
I've never even been to the Masonic Temple once. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
So yeah, we'll definitely put some stuff in the works. Like I would like to film a documentary. Like there's stuff that I've thought about doing eventually one day. So we'll put our heads together and yeah, for everybody out there, yeah, like I said, support the show. You can buy merch, support the Patreon, follow us on Instagram at Strange Brew Podcast, Inquiries of Our Reality.
There you go.
And then, yeah, just support the shows. We'll appreciate everyone that does. It means a lot to us for all the listeners. And thank you for listening. And take nothing seriously and remain strange. Switch it up there.
We'll stay bizarre.